Let's get a sense of all of this from the aforementioned House Budget Committee Chairman, Democratic Congressman John Yarmuth. And Congressman, Chairman, very good to see you.
Good to see you, Neil.
And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
First, sir, if I can get an update on where you think this shutdown is going, whether any needles moved last night with the president's speech, the Democratic response. What do you think?
No, I don't think anybody had their minds changed by last night. I don't think anything of any consequence was said, except from our perspective, the idea that there's absolutely no reason to shut down 8 agencies of government when your controversy is over one. And we've got hundreds of thousands of people out there who are going to start suffering beginning this week without being paid. Some have already been furloughed. And they're being held hostage over this debate over a border wall. So what we're doing this week is we're going to be passing individual appropriations bills. These are bills that they're actually Republican bills that were negotiated on a bipartisan basis. The Senate's already passed them by unanimous vote, virtually unanimous vote. And we're going to put the pressure back on the Senate to act to get these individual agencies open. The first one will be financial services, which includes the Treasury Department and IRS, so that people can get their tax refunds at the end of this month.
Now, the administration has argued that those folks are going to get the tax refunds regardless. But how can they promise that if you don't have this feature that you talked about?
Yeah, I don't understand how they're going to have people come to work, and people coming to work are going to expect to be paid, and so far there's no money to pay them. So I say, what's the value of taking a risk? You know that there's going to be inefficiencies, even if they can get some people to come back to work in IRS. So it just doesn't make any sense. Again, these are things that have already been done. This is one of the tragedies of this whole situation, is that these appropriations bills are an example of when the two sides can work together in a productive way to do something good for the American people. We did our work, and then it's being held up over this controversy over $5 billion.
Now, the president has apparently said, Chairman, that he is considering declaring a national emergency to fund the border wall. Your thoughts?
Well, there's no national emergency at the border. And as a matter of fact, virtually every metric by which you would measure border security has improved over the last few years. We're at record low apprehensions at the border. Just 30 days ago, the president tweeted out that we have a secure southern border. And, you know, one of the things in this controversy over the statement of whether there have been 3,700 people on a suspect terror list stopped at our borders, to me, the story there is, whether they were at the southern border or elsewhere, we actually stopped them. We have a system that prevented them from coming into the country.
Do you think the system has gotten a little more problematic, sir? And this, I mean, that maybe with the caravans, maybe it's the more accompanied and unaccompanied children, that the dynamics have changed a little bit at the border, and that it has become an emergency in that sense, and that is what the president seemed to be attaching himself to last night, to claim the crisis that he says it is. You say?
Well, if he had focused on the humanitarian crisis with the asylum seekers and the family separations and these kids being traumatized, then I think he would have had a much more sympathetic response. But he continued to stoke fear in the public that the southern border is this sieve where all these criminals are coming in, all the drugs are coming in, all the terrorists are coming in, and that's not the situation. Normally, if a president gives a primetime Oval Office address to talk about a national crisis, the purpose is to calm the country and to provide leadership. He did exactly the opposite. He showed nobody's in control, and he stoked fears. And that was one of my biggest concerns about watching the president last night.
But obstinate's going to work both ways, right?
Well, it can, but you've got a situation again where we're being asked to write a blank check to the administration for $5 billion. We say, come to Congress, make your case for your money. We don't write blank checks for money. Make the case for the wall or border security. Let us see what you actually plan to do, and then there's no interest in the Democratic caucus to prevent sensible, intelligent border security measures.
Chairman, do you think, and it's important what you think, because as head of the House Budget Committee, it would start with you, that Medicare should be for everybody, Medicare for all?
I support Medicare for all.
So that's a big ticket, right? That's a big price tag.
Well, exactly. Right? And one of the things we intend to do on the Budget Committee is have hearings on Medicare for all, understanding that there are a lot of different ways you can do Medicare for all. For instance, Bernie Sanders' plan was not Medicare for all. It was universal access to unlimited health care on demand with no consumer contribution. That's not what Medicare is. So what we're going to do in the hearing is explore the options that are available to the country to expand health care to everybody through a Medicare-like program, consider the varieties of how we could do that and what the impact on the budget would be.
But what are the ways that you would pay for it, sir, just so I understand? I know you had espoused raising the corporate tax rate from the 21% was lowered to 28%. Would that be one way to pay for that, or what?
Well, I think that would be a possibility. That, you know, I defer to the Ways and Means Committee on how much we're going to raise taxes or lower taxes. That's their jurisdiction.
But you want to raise them, right? You want to raise them.
Well, I think you're going to. Obviously, if you were to take a significant portion of the private health care expenditures and move them onto the federal budget, you would have to increase revenue that is now being spent in the private sector and generated in the private sector. You'd have to move that to the federal side. So, yes, you'd have to do something. And
what about on the upper income? Are you looking to raise taxes on that?
You know, that's not a top priority of mine. I have no problem with having a progressive rate that goes higher for super income individuals.
Are you in that 70% camp?
Well,
the top rate is 70%.
You know, I'm fine with looking at that, but I think the most important point is there's just not enough revenue available there to make the kind of investments that I think Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez wants to make, the Green New Deal, pay for Medicare for all. There's just not enough revenue there by a long stretch to accomplish the kind of investments that I think many of us want to make.
Chairman, thank you very much for taking the time. You've got quite a lot on your plate there. We appreciate you taking the time.